I seen Tim. I was gonna wait a few minutes. Tim's on his way, I'm sure.
Okay. What's this?
Yes. Thanks, Brian.
Hey.
Baby girl old is getting sick. What's going on?
Said it was supposed to start at 8 years.
I got enough up this far.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I seen him on Golden. He should be here, I think.
Yeah.
Almost there. Not a good day for printers. He's on his way.
Isn't Foster Township in the West Branch District?
Yes. We talk about it every meeting.
Okay. Do you know when they joined? Anybody?
What?
When Foster joined West Branch District Library? I need some sort of documentation. The Bureau sent an email that said they need something that shows that they formally joined the district after 2002.
That Foster? No, that wouldn't
Yeah.
be Foster.
Kathy Sherry's on that board.
Library as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell him we're waiting.
Does every township talk about the library or just ours?
I'm sure
We
Skipway
got a lot of
probably
stuff
talks
going
about.
on.
Richland talks about their library every meeting.
We got a lot of stuff going on right now.
So is the village.
Yeah.
Brenda here to that Horton because Karen Michaels is big in the library.
Yeah, she is. But they went and switched their meeting to Wednesday, and I was at West Branch Township Hall last night at a meeting, so I couldn't go to their meeting. They did their budget or something last night.
Horton.
Yeah, Horton.
Exactly.
So I was ready to go on Monday, but, I looked ahead and moved it to Wednesday because of budget reasons. They had to do budget or something, had to be within so many days or something like that.
No, I have so many questions.
Yes, we are recording. How you doing? Missed you last night.
Okay.
I was right in the middle of stuff last night. And
I just stayed to do my,
decided it was meeting time. I was late. I said, hell, missed that one.
I was there,
I'm glad you went.
yeah. I didn't see the whole meeting though, they were,
That's what I hear.
I gave a report about Francis and Italy and
I don't
about
think
7 or
they,
8 things I talked about last night.
they don't much care what we say.
Oh, I don't know, they asked me lots of questions last night.
That Jeremy's kind of wild.
Some of them seen the new stuff on the transit buses too.
Because I said that kind of early.
That's badass. That is freaking
Uh,
awesome. That, for those petitions, they're gonna sit down someplace on the sidewalk. Have people come look over.
We can't.
Very-
We're a government official. I don't think we can.
Yeah, I can, as long as I'm not. In my physical capacity.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. 100%. Thank you. We'll wait till you get.
As long as it's, the election's 60 days away from where I am, and it is.
Are you, I want clarification on that.
I read it.
I want it out loud.
What do it's on my calendar.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Ready to start? You ready, Tim?
Yep.
We're gonna leave with the pledge. I
Okay.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call?
Jenny David,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie,
yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yes.
Craig Scott.
Yes,
Item 2, approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections? I had a question. Tim, are we allowed, I guess, to talk about the incident that occurred last weekend? Because there was it was discussed last night at the 911 meeting.
Then by all means, if it was discussed, then we can discuss it here.
Okay. So that would probably go under new business.
I was gonna ask about the same.
I didn't know if at this point in time we were discussing it out loud, but it sounds like a lot of information is already public information.
What are we gonna call that?
I just put incident on
Okay,
item 8B. Is there any other additions or corrections?
no, make a motion to accept the agenda with additions.
Or
Motion from Commissioner Scott, support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes,
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, declaration of conflicts of interest. Any commissioners?
I don't think I have any.
I don't.
I don't either.
Should be good.
Item 4A, review of minutes, February 22nd, 2024, regular meeting minutes.
I reviewed the minutes. I'll make a motion that we approve them as presented.
We have a motion from Commissioner Scott,
I'll support.
support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4B, March 7th, 2024, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
make a motion to accept them as presented.
We have a motion from Commissioner Scott. Any support?
I'll support.
Support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes,
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, public comment on agenda items only. Is there any public comment in the room? Any public comment on the phone? Item 6, correspondence. We received a lot of them. I had a question about one of them, Tim, the smart cities. I was kind of confused by that. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it doesn't particularly apply to the county. A number of utilities, and particularly public utilities, now have, like on water meters, one of those, it's connected to the cloud somehow, and cities can get in and read meters right from a desk rather than having to physically go out on site and read a meter and take down the numbers. Again, not something we really get into, but the gist of that was, at least as I understood the 4-page email, was, there are some downsides to that, and that individual wanted to point that out. Just for the information of the board, that particular email has gone across the country to various cities, counties, townships, stating pretty much the same thing. I found 4 different versions of it, or 4 different, I don't call it versions because it was exactly the same email, but 4 different communities that had received it, a number more that I didn't bother to read any further. So it's not just in Michigan, just Ogemaw County that the concern lies. He's concerned about nationwide, about the impact of it.
And what impact is there?
I frankly don't believe there's any downside, but there are some thoughts that that information could be somehow misused, or maybe even with the fact that it is something that's automated, that somebody could hack into it and maybe cause some mischief that way.
The other one I found interesting was the one from Consumers Energy Stakeholders Engagement Management. There's some list, I thought it was a little forceful. There's some listed meetings, posted meetings, if anybody is interested, there, that is on there, and there's some meetings that are you can engage in, some dates on there, so. Item 7, consent agenda. You guys okay with, do you want to take these individually? Item 7A. Resolution to authorize purchase and installation of county building security cameras. Tom was here at our meeting. That is to approve of the resolution will authorize use of ARPA funds to purchase equipment necessary for an 8-unit interior security camera system in the county building at a total cost not to exceed $8,600.
I move that we pass the resolution.
We have a motion, Commissioner Scott,
I'll support.
support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? Thomas here gave a pretty good explanation of it. He was gonna look into, wasn't he gonna look into one other area? Was it the elevator? Tom, are you on?
I am.
Did you find anything out about that, or is that included in this price?
It's not included in the price, but there's contingency there enough to cover it if needed.
Okay, is that all was that all the questions that we had related to this?
I believe so, yes, it was just the elevator.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes,
Jenny David.
Yes. Item 7B, resolution to renew email platform service. This resolution is sponsored by Information Technology Director Tom Spencer on March 9th, 2023. The Ogemaw County Board of Commissioners approved resolution 23-39 to authorize migration to the Office 365 platform for all email users. Email users and the Information Technical Director are reasonably satisfied with the performance of the Office 365 platform. Approval of the resolution will authorize renewal of the Office 365 platform as quoted by CDW Corporation at a cost not to exceed $20,974.22 in fiscal year 2024. Funds necessary for renewal will be equally divided between the tax reversion fund and the general fund.
I'll make a motion, we approve the resolution to renew the email platform services.
We have a motion, Commissioner Wiltie,
support.
support from Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes,
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Item 7C, this resolution to expand global positioning system to include emergency medical services. This resolution is sponsored by Information Technical Director Tom Spencer on March 24th, 2022. The Ogemaw County Board of Commissioners approved resolution 22-36 to designate a portion of its ARPA allocation for a county vehicle global positioning system, a GPS system. The first responder GPS provider coverage for 14 vehicles out of a maximum of 25 with ongoing cost associated distributed among the host agencies. The Ogemaw County Emergency Medical EMS Authority asked to add its 6 vehicles to the first responder GPS network. Approval of the resolution will authorize the addition of 6 EMS vehicles to the GPS network with all associated costs proportionally borne by the EMS authority.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
We have a motion, Commissioner Wiltie,
I'll support.
support from Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? And this was at no extra cost to us.
Yeah, no extra cost is gonna be a great benefit to our EMS.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 7D, resolution to approve intern/volunteer agreement. This resolution is sponsored by Equalization Director Randy Booth. Internships and volunteer opportunities provide experience in various career fields students and volunteers seek to pursue. On April 28, 2022, the Board of Commissioners approved resolution 22-57 to establish a common format for agreements with interns and volunteers. Approval of the resolution will authorize the Equalization Director to engage a summer intern using the common format agreement.
make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion from Commissioner Scott,
I will second and I'd like to comment.
support from Commissioner Wiltie. Discussion?
Just thinking about this is great. And I was thinking that, I think it'd be something to look into for, like, for Tim to possibly get, an assistant for the summer. If it'd be something that Tim would be willing to do, because I know you've got a lot of items on your plate, and there's certain things that I think an assistant or intern
Intern.
could really, excuse me, intern could really be beneficial for the summer. So just a thought I had.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7E, resolution to approve a bus advertising agreement. This resolution is sponsored by Transit Director Ray Blamer and the Special Transit Advisory Committee. Wade Promotions LLC submitted a plan to fully wrap public transit buses in advertisements that promote community events in exchange for an exclusive license to sell, produce, install, display, and maintain advertisements on the inside and exterior of all public transit buses and vans. Wade Promotions would assume all costs associated with the bus wraps as a component of the exclusive license, meaning the county would not allow a third party to utilize any transit vehicle for advertising. Approval of the resolution will authorize the agreement with Wade Promotions through December 31st, 2026.
I'll make a motion to approve the bus advertising agreement.
I'll second.
Support from Commissioner Wiltie, or motion by Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Simmons. Discussion?
Yep.
Yeah, we have a representative here now.
Kurt is here.
Hi,
Hi,
how are ya?
good. I'm
You-
really glad to be here.
You want to take the floor for a second?
Would. My name's Kurt Buttleton.
Hi.
Hi, I'm from this area. This is my hometown. Graduated in '86, go Falcons, born in Toll-Free. About 20 years ago, Ogemaw Community Public Transit was the first transit that I introduced advertising to. I worked with Shirley Buck at that time. And so I've worked with the transit ever since. And in fact, we've expanded. I have 21 counties now that we service. We do all of the advertising. We handle all the advertising for Mount Pleasant, Midland, Bay City, Saginaw, all the way up to Sault Ste. Marie, and lots of smaller communities in between. And about a year ago, well, back up, about 2 years ago, and quite a few years before that, actually, but about, gosh, time goes so fast. This is like in 2018, 2019, I put on a promotion. Saginaw Stars paid me to do a promotion for them where we wrapped nonprofit groups on the buses. And I had a big contest and it went for about a month. We gave away over $100,000 in advertising for the nonprofits. And it was really productive for the transit. They loved it. I liked it because, you know, people don't notice the transit buses, unfortunately. If you don't need a transit, if you don't use the transit bus or have a loved one that needs to use the transit, it tends to go into the background and become part of the scenery. And that was the problem down there. And so we wanted to get wraps on the buses. But that also helps me in my business to sell advertising on the buses. So this was a great promotion we did, and it really kind of opened my eyes to what can be done with promotions and what can be done when the buses are noticed in the community. We brought as an example, their Facebook rating was like a 2.2, something like that. After our promotion, we had them at a 4.2 out of 5. So just a kind of an example of how it went within the community. It was really, really cool. So I loved it. I wanted to do more, but the problem is it's expensive. It's extremely expensive. I put together kind of a cost to replicate, I call it. What it would cost
Thank you.
yeah. If a transit wanted to replicate the promotions that we do with what we're promoting, with what I'm proposing we do in Ogemaw, it would cost over $125,000 for the 3-year promotion. And I'll get into that in a little bit, but I was talking to Glenn Steffens, the director of Saginaw Stars, about a year ago. And I shared with him, you know, what I would like to do and the frustration that there just isn't the money, and especially in the smaller communities, to be able to fund something like this. And he said, you know, Kurt, I don't put the ads on our buses in Saginaw for the money. And that struck me right away. I'm like, what? Seriously? So we're paying them $20,000 or $30,000 a year. I mean, it's not a huge amount, For them, though, it wasn't even a drop in the bucket. We're talking millions of dollars in their budget. It really wasn't enough to move the needle for them financially. He said, but where it's huge, he said, where it's huge for me is the community involvement, the connection to the community. Even though we're just mostly putting the businesses on, but we did this promotion too with all the nonprofits. He said, that's huge. That connects us to the community and people realize that we're doing something. We're here. The transit's out here doing our job. And so that got me to thinking, I'm like, wow, maybe this is a way that we can utilize transit assets to be able to afford a promotion that would be normally unaffordable. And the whole idea is to educate the community. First, turn their heads. If you talk to any of the drivers, I encourage you to, if you get a chance, to talk to one of the local drivers and say, hey, now that you have a wrap on your bus, do you notice any difference in the way people view you out there and that you're getting noticed? I guarantee you, they're gonna say, oh, yes. We see people go, and turn their heads. They really crank their heads around to see what's going on. So the whole idea of this promotion was to first get the transit noticed, be noticed. I worked with a transit before that had me change out all their branding. They brought in a special company to design a new brand, a new logo, and a new color scheme. Spent about $150,000 just changing their logo and their color scheme and moving in a direction of a new brand for the transit. That was pretty cool. But overall, I thought, how much better would it be if you wanted to bring your brand to the community? Why not make the community your brand? And that's what I'm really trying to do with this promotion, is make the community the brand. Let's promote the community on the buses and make a real connection to everybody in the community. We all know the Ogemaw County Fair. And I could go through these, but I'm not going to go through all of them for time. Pioneer Power, down to the destinations like Rifle River Recreation Area. We've got a new wrap going on this week for Classy Chassis, Jeep Jam, the West Branch Chamber of Commerce. I was working with Heather quite a bit at the chamber, and she says, Kirk, you guys should have all of these buses in the 4th of July parade. I'll bring the big scissors down and we'll do a ribbon cutting ceremony for all these buses. I told her I don't think the transit could do without their buses. You know, the county could do without the transit buses for the 4th of July, but good idea. So I'd like to show you a 1-minute video. Tom's got me all set up here. I just need to change the input source to the second PC.
Get ready to celebrate the heartbeat of our community with Celebrate Ogemaw. We're transforming our busy Ogemaw County transit buses into rolling billboards, showcasing what makes Ogemaw extraordinary. Picture this: buses wrapped with the excitement of the Ogemaw County Fair, the old-time thrill of Pioneer Power, the elegance of the Victorian Art Fair, and the vibrancy of the most popular Ogemaw events like Friday Night Falcon Football, Classy Chassis Car Show, and Jeep Jam. Rose City Music in the Park, and West Branch Little League. We're also featuring gems like the Rifle River Recreation Area and Ogemaw Hills Pathways. But it doesn't stop there. In the spring, we're wrapping an entire bus to showcase our high school graduates, while in the fall, the spirit of Ogemaw 4-H takes center stage. These bus wraps will come to life with online contests, with the winning photos becoming massive posters on the sides of the bus. Our Ogemaw County transit buses travel hundreds of thousands of miles annually, delivering tens of thousands of people. What a great way to take our community pride on the road for everyone to see. At the Ogemaw County Transit, we want to join you in celebrating Ogemaw because our community is worth showcasing. And together, we're unstoppable. Let the celebration begin.
Next brief video. So the idea of promotion, and I watched a little bit of last week's meeting, and I apologize for not being here. I didn't realize it was going on. I didn't realize that was my moment, and I apologize. I wanted to jump through the video and say, no, I've got the answer for that. Let me answer that. And I couldn't. This promotion, it is so much more about promoting the Ogemaw County Public Transit within the community than it is just some wraps on the outsides of the buses. The wraps on the buses turn heads and they connect to the community. The second step is we have to educate. And the contest that we have in the spring with the senior photo contest with the high schools in Ogemaw County, that's where the education begins. We ran that contest that you saw in Alpena, and we had over 200,000 votes. So here's how we use that to educate. Each time someone votes, and these kids were clever. I couldn't believe it. They're high school kids, and within 3 days, they figured out how to cheat. I'm like, what are you doing? They were able to have new IP addresses and use VPNs and use different browsers and basically have unlimited voting. So right away, I knew I needed to make it fair for everybody. So we took an hour every day and made it unlimited voting for all of them. But each time it worked out really cool because each time they voted, they would come to the landing screen that I set up. And they would see the sponsors for the event, but they would also find out something about the transit. And we can use that today we learn so much by memes. Everybody seems to communicate with memes. We have meme type graphics where when the kids, and for everybody, their families, everybody from really all over the country would come to vote, they would see, okay, this about the transit. Did you know that Ogemaw Public Transit delivered 36,000 people last year, or that we travel hundreds of thousands of miles? Or someday you might need us. We're here, we've got your back, we've got your ride for you. But build that value into the community for Ogemaw County Public Transit. And imagine 200,000, that was with one high school. What I'm excited about in Ogemaw is we've got Ogemaw Heights and we've got, was it Whittemore Prescott, right? Is right on the border. And a lot of those folks live here in Ogemaw as well. So they're included in this as well. We're gonna have some friendly competition and I'll provide graphics and banners for them to hang in their hallways and so on. But anyways, that's the start of the education. And then in the fall, we have 4-H with all the kids, with their pictures with their animals at the Ogemaw County Fair. And they'll be competing. To get what they're competing for is to get the really large pictures on the bus. And personally, I don't understand the thrill of having my face on a bus. But I'll tell you what, the kids loved it and it's a lot of fun and they want those big ones, but everybody's included in the wrap behind those pictures. So it's all about turning heads, getting noticed, making that connection to the community, and then educating everybody about Ogemaw County Public Transit at the same time. And that it's exciting to me to provide that to the transit because that's not something, as you can see in the pricing in front of you, those aren't made up prices, especially about $75,000 in production. That's the prices, those are the prices I get, all the time for doing wraps. The pricing that's quoted there for the bus wraps came right off from my pricing for Frankenmuth. I do their shuttle buses. We wrap their shuttle buses through Saginaw Stars, for Saginaw Stars, to shuttle in Frankenmuth every holiday season. So those are the same prices. So to hire people to come in and do what I'm doing, to wrap all the buses, you're about $75,000 right there. And in all of the other expenses that you see to run the promotions, to build the Facebook page and monitor it every month and put these contests on, accept the photos, to deal with everybody. There's 1,200 people on the Facebook page right now, Celebrate Ogemaw. And that's going to probably double or triple really quickly. So there's a lot involved with that. Probably not affordable for a transit our size for Ogemaw Public Transit, but by utilizing the assets, what they have on the buses, allowing me to be able to find maybe a half dozen sponsors, business sponsors that want to be on the bus. They'll get a full wrap on the side of a bus, and they'll also get their logo. In conjunction with, get this, we're going to be putting on over 35, it's more like 36 or 37 now, wraps on the buses over the next 3 years. So they would also be included in all of those. So I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, you can get anything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And what I love about this is it's a transit, really valuable promotion. It gets the public educated about really what the transit has to offer them in the community when they probably would not, many of them would never know. And it's great for me as a business. It lets people see ads on the buses and see how dynamic they can be. It turns heads and it helps me to be able to, sell those sponsorship positions on the buses. So I tried to spit that out as fast as I could. I know your time is so valuable. But do you have any questions, what we're doing or how this works? Yeah.
So the sponsors are the ones that are really paying,
Yes, the transit pays nothing,
right?
and that's important, and that's on the video at the end. It's 100% business sponsored in the community. So yes, the transit doesn't pay anything. It's all covered by sponsorship, by businesses advertising. Much more limited space now because we're wrapping everything for the transit. I mean, literally, there may be 8 or 9 spots left, and only 5 or 6 of those spots now will have room to get the full deal. Very limited space.
I noticed that your wrap was like up on the windows, it looked like, is that see-through?
If it's a situation where we're covering enough windows, then I make it see-through. It's a perforated vinyl that they can see through. But if it's just covering this window or that window, or it scallops along where people can see out, over the last couple of decades of doing this, I've learned how much we can do and be safe with people not getting nauseous or, just wanting to be able to see out. We've had very, very few complaints at all about that.
I'm just wondering what, for a transit, what the law would say about covering any portion of that window.
I cannot cover any window that the driver's going to need to see out, all the front windows. The back window is always perforated and they can see through just fine.
Okay,
So the windows that we are on are back behind where it's not, a location that the driver would need.
in other words, he probably had to turn his head to look out.
He'd have to turn all the way around pretty much, yeah.
We wouldn't want to do that.
No, no.
Any other questions? Ray, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
I've heard it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Carrie. Really liked that video.
Oh, great, thank you.
I have one more comment.
Oh,
Sure.
go ahead.
I've noticed some wraps are on the buses already, and people have been making comments to me about those wraps already, so it's out there and people are noticing those wraps already. It's not, I don't think there's that many out there, but isn't there one on the Deer Park or something
All
on the back?
all of these except for a couple are on the buses now.
So,
Yep.
but I think the Deer Park is on the back of one of the
Yeah,
buses.
we've got the Deer Park, the Nature Park
Yeah, that's,
on 2 of the rears of the buses.
yeah, I noticed that immediately, that, wow, the Nature Park.
I've had different people that have come to me and said, you know what? I didn't realize there was disc golf. Like, are you kidding me? No, I didn't know. I had another person say, what's geocache? Oh, what is that? And
Yeah,
geocache, and I, needed to explain what that was. But the beauty is they can Google and they're gonna see that there's more to do in Ogemaw County than what they think.
yeah,
And that's where the connection comes in. Let's get the transit noticed and really connected with the community, and then we can educate and inform the community. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And let's make that connection first and give back to the community on a really broad scale.
yeah, they really look nice.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Roll call vote?
David,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes.
Craig Scott.
No,
Item 7F, resolution to approve authorized Homeland Security Grant Program expenditures for portable LED signs. This portable signs would be made available for use by the Road Commission, EMS, fire departments, law enforcement, and emergency management. Approval of the resolution will authorize purchase of 3 portable and programmable LED signs at a cost not to exceed $30,000 with funds from the Homeland Security Grant Program.
move to approve the resolution.
Motion from Commissioner Scott,
Second.
support from Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion? 100% covered. Roll call vote?
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes,
Craig Scott.
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes. Item 7G, resolution to approve temporary procurement card limit increase. This resolution, sponsored by committee, hang on, sorry, got lost for a second. This This resolution is, that's why it threw me off, is sponsored by the Emergency Management Coordinator Mike Bowers. On December 22nd, 2020, the Ogemaw County Board of Commissioners approved Resolution 20-81 to adopt a procurement card procedures policy which set maximum spending limits on procurement cards issued to county employees. The Emergency Management Coordinator wishes to make one-time purchase of equipment in excess of the $2,500 limit available on the procurement card held by the county administrator/controller. Approval of the resolution will authorize a temporary limit of $4,000 for the card to allow for the one-time purchase.
I'll make a motion that we approve this temporary procurement.
Or,
We have a motion from Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion?
the fence are really nice looking,
Pardon me?
really nice looking, and he can program them and from his phone and the whole
Yeah, I
ball of
see 'em.
wax. Redirect traffic if, accident out there or something like that. They're really nice signs.
There were some nice photos that were on there. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Item 7H is resolution of support for statewide ballot initiative to restore local control of siting decisions for renewable energy and energy storage projects. I'm going to read all of this. This resolution is sponsored by the Committee of the Whole. The ability of the local jurisdiction to determine for themselves which projects should and should not be allowed in their local communities was enshrined in the landmark village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty Company, U.S. Supreme Court decision in 1926 that established a principle and practice of land use zones. The Michigan Legislature and Governor Act to assert local control of land use decisions established in Euclid through enactment of Public Act 233 of 2023, which strips away local community control of the siting process for renewable energy and energy storage projects and instead assigns that function to the Michigan Public Service Commission. Approval of the resolution will document the Board of Commissioners' support for a statewide ballot initiative organized by the citizens for local choice to repeal Public Act 233 of 2023. If approved, the resolution will be forwarded to all Michigan counties, the Michigan Association of Counties, state legislators who represent Ogemaw County, and other applicable state and local authorities.
I'll make the motion for the resolution to support statewide ballot initiative.
I support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Waltz, support from Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion?
I'm just, so the board is aware, the Michigan Association of Counties earlier this week announced that they were now supporting the same organization to get this particular act repealed and are encouraging counties to pass resolutions like this.
And we had some more under correspondence
We did.
this week. I have a question on this. Us acting in our role, are we allowed to have any activity with the signing of citizens for this? The petition?
So like circulating petitions, you and our attorney is on Zoom for clarification, but my understanding is, yes, you can do that. The restrictions are that we can't use county resources to do this, so you don't want to do that like now at the board meeting. But if you're out, walking, amongst your, just out in public and you have one, or if you're stationed someplace for signatures, you're certainly able to do that without any problem.
Okay, I wanted to hear that out loud. Any further discussion?
Well, one thing I'd like to say, I'm in support of restoring local control. I don't want the state to take local control away from us, but this does not say what we decide on, what our ideas about renewable energy are. We're only supporting the state not to take our rights away from us.
Correct.
The rights to make the decision. There is no decision made.
Right.
I don't want the public to say, Craig voted not to put in something. I'm not doing that. I'm voting to restore local control of the decisions.
Ryan, do you have anything to add? Come on up, sir. If you have anything.
I don't really have anything to add. I mean, it's the importance of that. I don't know how we got to this point. It's little bit ridiculous to me when they try to take decisions away from the local community. So, and like Craig stated, yeah, there have been no decisions on our part. The planning commission is keeping an eye on it. The language in there is very vague in some ways. And it really doesn't do anything to help us. With this law that's or the law that was passed, I mean, we can be a part of that process, but also they can go over our head for it as well too. So it really doesn't make any sense to me. And the biggest thing for zoning and land use is, the public health and safety. So when you take that away from the people that are directly involved in the community, it doesn't make any sense to me. So.
Help, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think what's happening is these companies, these big, and they're big companies, they're coming into us, and they're coming into areas and some people are just going nuts. And they're blocking it, so they're taking an end run. Let's go to the state. Let's try to the state big. Just like the gravel pit story, the same thing with that.
Right.
The cell towers. Cell tower companies and the cell companies are going, hey, let's not get in 400 different fights across every state in the union.
Sure.
Because we want to put a cell tower up to help people. Let's just go to 50 states, make it a point, get them to take the control back over. I think that's what it is. And we're going to keep seeing this.
Yeah, and it has the potential. I mean, you're talking about, we're not talking about small tracts of land. We're talking about thousands of acres of land here in Ogemaw County that could potentially be changed. The landscape of the entire community could be changed by this, and it just makes it's unfathomable to me that this decision would be made in Lansing. So they're taking the voice of the people away from the people. Whereas they would come here to voice their opinions and would be able to talk to people who live here in this community and know about this community. Those people aren't going to travel to Lansing for that. And who knows, somebody in Lansing doesn't understand what they're even talking about, the areas they're talking about, or the history behind the community as well too. So,
You brought up health and safety, also funding and reimbursement. Did you happen to read, we, under our correspondence, we had correspondent from consumers. Did you happen to read that?
yeah, I've been through that, and I do, and I've had talked with Ryan there at with consumers on numerous occasions. So, and they would like to deal with the local community as well too. The problem with that is they don't have to. And even if they deal with us, and for instance, the way that this is written, so we create a compatible renewable energy ordinance for Ogemaw County. If they come to us and we deny their permit, they can go over our head to the state. Then the state would have a chance to hear it. The state could actually grant them permission to do it. Once they do that, it makes all the work that we've done to create this compatible renewable energy ordinance null and void. So,
That's right. Well, the project has to be at a certain level. That correspondence from them also gets into quite a bit about expense or reimbursement.
Reimbursement.
Was there some misunderstanding there?
It's not plain. The language isn't plain in that law. It does say for renewable energy ordinance or for renewable energy projects, for instance, Consumers Power would be required to pay $2,000 a megawatt to the municipality. Municipality is defined in that ordinance as a city, township, village, or county. But it doesn't really go into the specifics on what municipality. MTA and a lot of the associations here, the planning associations here, Michigan State University Extension, they have been looking at that. And one of the things that I've heard is they've made it sound like, well, if it's municipality, then it would go to both. But the ordinance doesn't clearly state that, or the law doesn't clearly state that. So there's a lot of unknowns here as well too. And it's just, it almost seems like it's a bribe. It's
That's what I got out of it.
Because everybody's gonna make money on it, and let's not worry about it. We'll take care of it at the state level. We'll all make money on it and you won't have to deal with that. Well, that's not the right way to go about it. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion carries. Resolution to appoint a member to the Special Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee. This resolution is sponsored by Administrator / Controller Timothy Delahoney, section 11571 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act requires creation of a materials management plan for all Michigan counties to ensure sufficient recycling and I went over to the wrong one.
Yeah.
This resolution is sponsored by Administrator / Controller Timothy Delahoney. On June 22nd, 2023, the Board of Commissioners approved Resolution 23-92 to establish and appoint members to the Special Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee. Appointment member Shannon Davison recently resigned from the committee. District Health Department number 2 Community Health Director / epidemiologist Scott Izzo, a regular participant in committee meetings, has agreed to partake as an appointed member of the committee. Approval of the resolution will appoint Mr. Izzo to a term to expire on December 31st, 2024. I apologize for that.
I'll make a motion
I'll
to approve the appointment.
support.
Motion from Commissioner Scott, support from Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion?
That's gonna bring a lot of good. He already has and he will continue to. This is good stuff.
Any further discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 7J, resolution of intention to participate in a multi-county material management planning process. This resolution is sponsored by County Administrator / Controller Timothy Delahoney, section 11571 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act requires creation of a materials management plan of all Michigan counties to ensure sufficient recycling and composting capacity. Officials from Isabella County have invited Ogemaw County to participate in a regional MMP work group to start the planning process. Approval of the resolution will state Ogemaw County's intention to participate in the regional MMP work group and will appoint Commissioner Craig Scott as a Ogemaw County liaison to the committee.
Make the resolution, the intention to participate with multi-county materials management planning process.
We have
I
a
support
motion from
it.
Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Simmons. Did our legal team have an opportunity to look at this?
They have it, and I will point out that very last result that you'd be authorized to sign once we've got the approval as to form from the county attorney. Don did want to look up a couple of technical details in the act itself. Would not be surprised if we have maybe a modification to this in the future. There are a lot of requirements that are in that particular statute. I was able to read that this particular portion, the section 11571 that we're quoting here, it's actually on page 79 of the statute. So it's a pretty long one. So there's some details in there. He just wants to make sure that we're in compliance with, and particularly because we're going to have to be on the record with the state by July 5th, I think it is, about what our intentions are.
I had a question. Should that say, and I agree with Commissioner Scott's background there, as long as he's a commissioner? I mean, because there's no, I guess, would he continue if he doesn't move forward with next term?
These types of appointments, this one is like a liaison that we look at the beginning of every year anyway, so it would be up for review.
Okay.
At that time.
I didn't know if he wanted to continue.
I'd like to also state, I appreciate Commissioner Scott's extreme willingness to be liaison.
Dream willing.
He was kind of put on the spot, but I agree with his professional background. It's a good fit for that. Did you agree with that, Commissioner Scott?
Extremely.
Yeah. Any further discussion? There is some money here, so we'll do a roll call vote on this one.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
No.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes.
Craig Scott.
Extremely.
Item 8, new business claims. We have claims a total of $180,354.61. There was a $20,000 that had to be prepaid. There was, I don't recall exactly what it was, but it was something that needed to be paid prior to the meeting. I had Commissioner Mayhew and I, which is my fault, jumped in a month early. So he and I reviewed claims.
I really appreciate it though, because I was very busy there.
Yeah, it's okay with me. You wanna do it next week, next time?
I had some,
Get a jump on the whole quarter?
I had some, questions on claims, I guess, before. I guess do we have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve claims first and then we'll talk about them.
Second.
Motion, with support discussion. I was hoping the sheriff's office would be here. They had a star stickers. They had which was $320. I just didn't know. I think that purchase put them over budget. There was 1,000 stickers that they purchased. I just didn't know what that was for.
What are the stickers for, I wonder?
I don't know. The other thing, Tim, I had, do you know? I'm sorry.
I had a brief conversation with Tracy about it. I think it's some kind of a promotional sticker. I don't know exactly what, but it's a sticker. And we did have at our department head meeting on Monday, just again, a reminder to departments that they need to monitor those budgets. And so something like this, there needs to be an adjustment that should come through ahead of the actual purchase. So what we tend to do is flag these, which is why Tracy flagged this one. And it needs an amendment, and I expect to see one from the department to show us where they're pulling the funding from. What line item is that? Are they going to change to be able to pay for this?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Was the sheriff department represented this past Monday at that meeting?
Yes. Yes.
I had another question on our claims. There was and it's not for that much, but I just didn't know what it meant. Unreconciled 82nd District Court bank accounts. Can you explain that?
That
For the record, that has nothing to do with the treasurer's office.
I didn't think you did.
well, what happened, you all received the supplemental audit that was done in district court, and they went through many years worth of records and just simply honestly, the bank reconciliations were not being done. That's the bottom line. And it came to a point that there are items on there they just couldn't find, they couldn't track. And rather than spend more resources trying to track down, it was more economical to just resolve the account. And that's what's going on with this. This will now bring them current to whatever date of the audit. I forget, it's within the last month, and then they'll start fresh from there. But it just came down to the time they were spending trying to track all that down and make those reconciliations was costing more than what the value was. So they, working with the auditors, came up with this procedure to go ahead and there's a technical term for it, but to make everything balance. And then again, moving forward, they have implemented some internal controls now at the district court there where this should not happen again.
I guess is that why we're still seeing, I know we share an individual with Roscommon County for mileage. I mean, there's still $400 or $500 a month. So with this reconciliation that you just discussed, are we gonna see that slowly reduced? Because that's a lot of money.
It's a question for the court. I don't know what their plan is. Is Danielle going to continue in this role for both counties? If yes, then that would go away because it's a workplace. So you don't get reimbursed for travel expenses for reporting to work. So for instance, I cannot charge the county mileage from home to work because this is where I work. It's just not allowed. So if Danielle's going to continue in that role, that's something we'd have to look at. I don't know long-term if that's the intent. They may ask to bring back the full-time court administrator for Ogemaw. I'm just not familiar enough with the operations of the court to know what the needs are and what their outlook is.
Can we seek further information? It sounds like the issues are being resolved. The past issues, which is good. I mean, we had some questions with this mileage initially and we understood and it was brought to us and explained, but if this is being resolved, there's got to be a plan moving forward. $400 or $500 a month in mileage is a lot of money for one person. Just what the plan is moving forward. I think that's a reasonable request.
Sure. And of course, the other side of that is we're not paying a court administrator directly now. So we're saving a little bit there, but yeah, we need the court to help us figure that out and to give us some long-term projection on costs so that we can budget accordingly.
I think so. I also had, when we reviewed claims, we were looking at the, food, all of the, vendors that were being utilized for food. There's quite a few of them on there, and I asked her to put together just a brief, comparison. The food expense still looks extremely high, and I looked at some of the purchases, there was some things out there that were, quite costly. So I did ask her, she's supposed to be presenting that information or getting it to us just to see where we're at with that, because that was brought to her like here a few months ago, just to see if things have improved, not improved. That was interesting to look a little closer at. So have you been watching that, Tim? Have you?
Yeah, I was very alarmed last year at the conclusion of the fiscal year at how far over budget that particular line had gone. So that's a good exercise to maybe get a really good firm understanding of why those costs are where they are. I just haven't had a chance to dive into it any deeper than that, other than to monitor it and, you know, hope that the administrators at the corrections are monitoring it as well.
Commissioner Wiltie?
Are you talking about food costs at the jail?
Yes, yes, there was actual food items on there. I mean, it, pizza sauce, there was a lot of, things that are quite costly.
Yeah.
Individual items that are purchased,
Yeah.
chips, there's a lot of things on there that I was, alarmed by.
Okay, so I have some to add to that. I don't know if you read the law enforcement minutes from.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
saw that I was in the jail. So I actually took one of my kitchen managers, because he's just been in the industry a long time, so we could kind of get our eyes on the processes over there. And we met with one of there's two corrections officers that basically do all the ordering. So we had a really good conversation with the one officer that does a lot of the ordering. And then we both were impressed with the setup there, how things are run. Very clean, very organized, seems very lean. But on the other side, probably 3 months ago, I got a list from Tracy on food costs. So I took that to a couple of my kitchen managers so they could do comparisons. You know, going into it thinking that we, of course, as a county level, since we're in municipality, we should be quite a bit lower. We were significantly lower. This was like 3 months ago, so I haven't seen anything the last couple months. But we were just looking for apples, you know, like from butter costs to, you know, flour costs and stuff like that. And the costs were substantially lower than what we pay, which in my eyes should be the case. But that's just the input that I have for right now.
And Tracy had also said that a nutritionist, it's mandatory for somebody to come in once a year from the state to come in and evaluate, provide information, give details. And she wasn't exactly sure when, that person, was last here, but it wasn't, mine was more, it didn't seem more bulk items. It seemed more individualized, which of course is more costly. So that's what kind of alarmed me a bit, was it was more individualized items versus a larger group of people, which obviously is more cost savings versus individual things.
Yeah, we really didn't see anything like that, so I'd like to maybe take a look at that as well then.
Absolutely.
You said something about like chips. Like are you mean like bags of potato chips?
And that's just what comes to my mind right now. I would recommend stopping and looking at it.
That's probably the commissary items, the stuff they'll turn around and sell to the inmates.
Possibly, I don't know.
Doesn't that usually come on a different form?
It may come from the same.
Yeah, there's a
vendor.
book that's commissary. That was not under that. No.
Well,
in commissary.
that's another thing that we need to make sure they're watching where they're spending the money from. Is it coming from kitchen or is it coming from commissary?
Yeah, that was not under the commissary folder.
The same point that Tim was just talking about. Departments going over budget. Every one of us go to township meetings and I'll bet that you're encountering the same thing I do at a township meeting. They look at budget every month and they do budget adjustments every month. The clerk in I've seen budget adjustments for $8.64 in a month because it went over budget in that line for $8.64. And you'd say, geez, you were gonna spend this time for this? Yes, because it's business. And these departments, they need to know, they need to understand what a budget is and why we got it. And that if you're gonna overspend it, you gotta tell somebody. Well, you first gotta realize that you're overspending it.
And you also have to realize we can't overspend because there isn't any money there to pay for the overspending.
That's right, that's exactly right.
There'll be more information to come on that. Any other questions on claims? Everything was pretty, there was one more snow removal on there. Anything you recall, Mr. Mayhew?
No.
Everything else I think was pretty standard. Any other questions?
Well, one thing, like, we're talking this budget thing, one of the things in law enforcement, our secondary road patrol was 150% over budget.
Yeah.
And we got talking to them. Well, yeah, I guess we probably put the wrong patrol officer into that. Well, you gotta be consciously do this. You can't be just, he did something else, he gets charged to another count then,
That's right.
you know? So, yeah. And we constantly tell the sheriff that, you know, we're not trying to focus only on you, but when you could demand, when you control a third of the budget, you know, there's more focus on it.
Maybe he doesn't understand.
Any further discussion?
Go.
There was also on there, there was a institutional care, there was a $4,000 bill for Osceola. Roll call vote.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes. 8B, the incident. Tim, did you wanna, I know we all received a brief email on Monday. I never received a phone call. But I did read your email.
What was in the emails, all I know about the incident, involved the sheriff's office, K-9 and a dispatcher on Sunday. It did result in stitches necessary after a bite. We did consult with our attorneys about what next steps really needed to be taken. And obviously, one of the first steps was to make sure the incident was documented, which it was, and has been turned over as well to our insurance carrier. It does appear that this will end up being a work comp claim. I'm not sure exactly whose work comp, probably dispatches, because that's the employee, but not entirely clear. Not really sure why the dog was in the dispatch center at the time. But I also am just, my limited familiarity with it, I know that there are attempts for dogs like this to get them acclimated to certain areas, but in this case, I don't know if this was official, if it was a visit, I have no details.
So we had a 911 meeting last night, and it was brought to the board in attention. And I told them that this would be talked about today if it was allowed. So apparently, on Sundays, the dispatchers make breakfast for the sheriff's department and themselves. So it sounds like it's a fairly common, it sounds like it's every Sunday. They come in, they make them breakfast, they converse, they eat. So that brought some attention to the board, from the 911 board, as far as from a safety perspective, as far as policies, procedures moving forward. Some things were brought to the attention that the board members didn't know or were not aware of. It sounds like dinner's made fairly often as well. It sounds like for overall, the 911 director explained it to us that they've done this for quite a few years. It's a morale booster. Obviously, they have to work very close together. But now there has been something that happened. So there is a liability issue there. This individual is off of work. Didn't sound like for very long, but is currently off work on workman's comp. So the county owns this building. So from a liability standpoint, you know, what is our policy on and procedure on security, on who's coming in and out? This building is kind of a free for all. But now there has been an incident, so now we need to pay attention and come up with a policy procedure, or what is it exactly?
So this building doesn't have the electronic key like the county building does, but it does have a physical key. I understand particularly after hours and on weekends, it's locked, so to get in, you'd have to have some kind of access, through a key. As far as central dispatch is concerned, not sure exactly how they operate with their protocol, but I think they're probably more secure than the general building. That's to say that not anybody has ability to just walk in. I don't think anybody who shouldn't have a key doesn't have a key. Now, as far as interaction with law enforcement, I do see them over here quite a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not surprised to hear what you're telling me. Just based on my own observations and how often I see not only our county patrols cars here, but state police and city as well. And I don't find that necessarily unusual or alarming from just a general standpoint of while they're communicating with law enforcement, yeah, you've got to have that. As far as having the breakfasts and dinners made, can only assume that our officers are on some kind of break period or something like that when that's going on. I don't know. I just don't know. As far as the protocol for who gets into 911, not really sure. And yes, we do have liability with the building, but I'm more concerned about the liability with the canine. Now that we've had this incident, and I can only hope at this point the sheriff's office is following up, done their investigation and figuring out exactly what has happened here to make sure that doesn't happen again. Mentally, I immediately went to, if this is common that the dog is allowed to interact or somehow be, close to individuals like this, are we going into the schools with the dog, and are kids being able to have access to the dog? And what are the potentials there of the dog going into work mode and maybe doing something horrible in that situation? So I'm hoping those things are being reviewed at the sheriff's office and the steps are being taken to limit that liability. The dog is a tremendous asset, I know that. But maybe more care needs to be taken as to just how close to individuals it is, what the environment is like, so that we don't have something way worse happen. If this were a private citizen and the dog did this, there's a good chance that that dog would be euthanized or at least quarantined immediately after that. So again, I don't know how that applies to a law enforcement animal, but it just drives home the point of how careful we have to be. Long-winded answer, but I think my bigger concern on liabilities for the dog itself. As far as the building is concerned, I haven't heard any concerns about security, but this is an opportunity to look at it. Let's see what the situation is and try to find weak points and get those shored up.
Thoughts, commissioners?
Tim, you haven't heard from the sheriff's department regarding this incident then personally?
Just what I reported to you, the sheriff and undersheriff came over about 2 hours after the conclusion of the department head meeting, where we talked about the importance of making sure incidents were filed appropriately. So they were certainly within their 24 hours, but that's it. I mean, it was maybe a 15-minute conversation and that's all. So I've heard nothing else.
So you haven't heard from them since?
No.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, you're on 911 board. What's their policy about visitors and dinners and breakfasts, and is
They were
911 funding that?
They were unaware. The board was very unaware. The board was very, I'm gonna say displeased, but this was alarm to them, because no, we were not aware, just like there's, I'm sure, things that we don't know that happens. Obviously morale is extremely important, not trying to take away from that. Yes, there has to be some interaction as far as with liens and that kind of thing, but the board was very unaware that the interaction was to this extent. Where breakfast, dinners are being made, where they're eating at. Is there a breach of I don't want to say HIPAA, because that's not it, of information of are people where they're not supposed to be? Yes, that's an excellent question.
There's a kitchen right in here.
So they kind of wanted, it was tabled last night. It was a pretty lengthy discussion. They wanted to see what, we were going to come up with, what our policy was. And then they were gonna elaborate on that. The 911 director did put out on Monday morning that no animals are allowed in this building at all. Or on the premises that's what she did do.
Well, she can say that for the 911 area, but I don't have a problem if that's the procedure that's taken for the entire building. I, again, don't know about the training of the dog, and does he need to be acclimated in a situation? I just don't know. So I would hope I'll hear from the sheriff to maybe educate me a little bit more about how the training protocol is for the dog. I mean, we see service animals all the time being trained in, places like Meijer and Walmart and so on. So I don't know if that's just a normal process or not. But again, I'm concerned this has happened once. I want to make sure we're taking all the steps to assure it's not going to happen a second time.
But I also think I'll go ahead, Commissioner Simmons, and I'll come back.
So, but it sounds like, to me that, the dog's usually under command, so it sounds like the dog handler doesn't have control of the dog. That's what it portrays to me, to let that dog bite someone else. Cause usually they have commands, to give a dog to when they go for someone or, I mean, something had to set this dog up, something's not right. Cause that handler should have control of that dog with those commands.
Commissioner Mayhew? Thoughts?
You have a guy supposed to have control of it.
And I think that this is being talked about now, like we said last night, that because now there's been an incident. And so even if we pull away from just a specific incident, safety concerns, policy, procedures, there's been a lot more, last night it was stated, there's a lot more traffic in and out of this building now. We're over here, there's a lot more people once a week with a lot more people. Is there a safety concern? We spent a lot of money on security, and I know we came over here for reasons for the heating and cooling system there. There's been some hot topics that even we've talked about. Anybody can really walk in here. I understand it's a public meeting, but there isn't any security. It's just, I think we need to come up with a policy. Whatever that may be, I think it needs to be talked about. I think we need to put it on the committee of the whole. I do wish we would have received a phone call because I've had some questions out there in the public related to this incident. It's very public information now. There's quite a few stitches. It was a pretty big, from what I've understanding, a pretty big bite. That email said the amount of stitches, which was pretty extensive.
You're talking to a guy who's never had stitches, so
Quite a few. And again, I think our job is to come up with a policy moving forward. Thoughts on this building, what our liability is. Yes, we got two different, it also happened on our grounds.
involved our people, yeah.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I agree completely with Tim said, that we need to do everything in our power right now to make sure this does not happen again. We have enough issues as it is, lawsuits, liabilities. If we have anything like this come about, we gotta take it to the most serious level, which I know we are. But on the other side is, I understand completely why we're in this building, and I respect that as being a team player for Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Mayhew for hearing and everything. But I do have concerns about safety as well. We do spend a lot of money over at the courthouse, and we should. We make decisions that make some people happy and make some people not happy. We know the state of where we're at with mental health and everything else. It just takes one incident, and I'm also, to add on to that, I'm very disappointed with the activity of the sheriff department. They don't come to our meetings. It's very rare to see them here, but when they are here, if you think about it, they are our protection. Well, they're not here very often anymore, so we've lost that protection as well. So this is a very important topic that I think we need to talk more about.
Because if we continue down this path, there's gonna be more incidents. There is. What's the next incident gonna be? There is a lot of people in and out of this building. There are with everybody that's in this building.
Well, the thing was that the county the court system, the state court system said they had to have security upstairs. All we did in the court building is move it downstairs. The same thing. They had the metal detector upstairs and they had security upstairs. We moved it downstairs and we elaborated it. We did make it bigger. But it's gonna be very difficult to put it in every building that we own. You know, you go to the city hall, you don't have security there. We go to every township meeting, we don't have security there. It's gonna be it's very expensive to add it to every building that we're gonna have public going into. 911 separate. They can lock their doors, they can isolate themselves. If they wanna serve lunch, I don't care, serve lunch. I don't care. I can't tell the deputies, I can't tell the sheriff where his deputies have lunch or dinner or breakfast at. My hands are tied there. If 911 wants to serve dinner and they want to take taxpayers' money to pay for it, I guess I could just complain.
No, that's not allowed.
Well,
Not allowed.
well, you know, they made themselves so separate anymore. I mean, commissioners, we don't have day-to-day controls on 911.
Right, but they wanted to see if we were gonna make any adjustments to policies, procedures for this building, which then will affect them. And they will possibly add to theirs. They wanted to see what we were gonna do first for the building and the grounds.
What do you wanna do?
But when they've got a kitchen right here, they can make their own breakfast.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't think they're using taxpayer dollars for that.
No, no, I don't believe so, but
Okay,
I mean, I know people that use that kitchen, they bring their own stuff.
yeah, that's fine. Well, my point is, it's 911 and that's separate from the county operations.
You're right. You're an authority.
Tim, did you have something?
You have control over their millage funding though. And it's gonna make you sort of complicit if we're doing things like using those dollars to make meals for staff. That's just not allowed. And we'd have to call that out if that's what's happening.
No, it's definitely not. I didn't get that out of that, but again, a lot of hot topics right now, a lot of issues are unresolved in certain departments and probably ongoing for a period of time. So I think that was a little bit of a topic of conversation as well last night and what is gonna be allowed moving forward and whatnot. Casual hanging out or versus break times, you know, where do we draw that line? Because the public is watching and people are seeing. And conversation is happening. Again, morale is important, but there's
Well, you know, if an officer's over here, I gotta believe it's for business. Why would an officer just come over here not for business? And I would think that our sheriff is gonna tell us exactly that. I don't think he's gonna come in here and say, well, no, they come over here to play cards. I think he's gonna say it's business. The question about animals, we see service animals everywhere. Are we going to, can we bar them from any public building?
Service animals, legitimate service animals, you're not gonna bar them. If it's one of the, like an emotional support animal that maybe is questionable, yeah, you're gonna bar something like that. I had an experience where somebody wanted to bring, literally, I kid you not, an emotional support chicken to a board meeting.
Yeah,
And that isn't gonna be allowed. So I mean, there are limits, you know, to where you go. But again, if it's a legitimate service animal, that's one thing. If it's just a pet that you.
Well, I think the service animal
Generally.
definition is even getting stretched now. I'm seeing,
service versus emotional support. They're two totally separate things. I deal with this paperwork very frequently.
oh, okay, well.
Totally
Then I
separate
guess
things.
tell me the difference. I mean, a service animal to me is the dog walking a blind guy.
Right.
Okay, but I'm going to Home Depot and I'm seeing people walking in there with dogs all the time. This guy had a big Doberman the other day in there, you know. Even had a muzzle on him. I'm thinking, why you need a muzzle? Because he
Oh, yeah.
bites. That's why, you know. At what point do we cut this off? And
I just think from a liability standpoint, I would, can we put this on the committee of the whole? I think it needs to be, continue to be talked about this building, this grounds from a liability moving forward. We definitely, in my opinion, we need to have a policy procedure for safety concerns on all levels.
Commissioner David. can I say
Yes.
one more thing? So like, the way I look at it is, yes, 911 is authority, EMS is authority. You know, what are we doing as a commission? You know, we're trying to be looking at all of our spending at the county level that we can control and be as efficient as we can, be as productive as we can, and save our taxpayers money. And basically, I look at it the same way for 911 and EMS. I am on the EMS board, but who funds that? This is our taxpayers. So they need to be run professionally, it needs to be consistent. And these are our taxpayers that are paying for this. So we need to make sure that the people, the stakeholders, the managers, the bosses are running these professionally. And that, again, our taxpayers are paying for what they should be paying for, and that is to get the best service possible and have the best people in place to provide that service.
So we'll put this on. Thank you. Unfinished business. Any? 10, administrator / controllers report.
So late, yesterday, the report was loaded to the Google Drive. So I do want to touch on a few things on here. This is well, double the length of the normal report that you see. But the first one that deals with the FOIA, so just wanted to present this to you because it was a particularly active period. Over 3 weeks, we received 13 FOIA requests. And I'll tell you that the requests that we received weren't anything that was way out of the ordinary. This is kind of normal. We had an election that happened in February. Every time we're around elections, we tend to get FOIA requests for election data in one form or another. In both of these cases, though, was the information requested either we couldn't provide because of the timing of the FOIA request and the election, or there was some reason why the Bureau of Elections in Lansing said this is exempt from FOIA, you can't give it out. But in both cases, we were able to direct the people requesting information to other places to get what they were after. For instance, we had one that wanted a proof ballot of the 2024 primary. Well, we weren't able to do that in advance of the election, but the state did set up a web page where an individual can go and look at any ballot anywhere in the state. You type in your community and that ballot would pop up. So we're not just saying no in a case like that. We're saying, but here's an option to maybe where you can get the information that you'd like. The other concern, the voter registration records that, you know, the state keeps those records anyway, so they're not something that we're able to just give out. But again, we're able to direct that requester to another agency that could potentially help them out. 9 of these FOIA requests came from the same individual, and they were after a couple of things. One of them was the identity of all of our local officials. Well, clerk's office has put together a directory. It's actually posted on our webpage, so we're able to fill that FOIA, at least some of those requests, pretty easily. There was one request in there. They were asking for the membership on consolidated governments and tribes and things of that nature. We just don't have. So obviously that's one that's denied because we don't have the documents. But there was another interesting one. They asked that we compile a list of all of our vendors that we've worked with for the last 5 years. Well, we don't have such a list, and we're not compelled under FOIA to create a list like that. I was a little apprehensive about doing that anyway, because it just kind of, I'm just concerned about activities that may be less than above board. I don't necessarily want to identify our vendors and make them targets of people who are attempting to maybe through nefarious means get payments. So was my concern going in, but the bottom line, what was requested, we didn't have, so it was impossible for us to create. But one thing they did ask for was a copy of budgets for the last 4 years, and certainly requests like that we're able to give out or to comply with. 2 other requests that came in. One was for a list of all the car washes on our records. So we don't have any car washes on our records. Again, an easy one to reject. But we did have another request, as an interesting one, for zoning records, in this case for borrow pits. And so that one, we did issue an extension because Ryan is going back several decades to make sure that we've identified what records we have and we're able to comply with the request. And that's one I think the Planning Commission will be able to benefit from as well, because they will also now have that record. So all that will have been compiled and will be readily available for anybody who needs it. So the other thing I want to just touch on is what happens when we do deny a request. And I think we've talked about this briefly in the past, but if I say to somebody, your request is denied for whatever reason, that individual can appeal to you to have that denial reversed. Or they can appeal to the circuit court and say they have the document, they didn't provide it, there's violation, and then there are penalties in that case. So that's why I make sure that we cite statutes or whatever reference that we have that say that this particular item is exempt. But just be aware, it could be something that ends up in front of you if somebody wanted to appeal that denial. One last thing on FOIAs, I did revise the form that was on our webpage. And it definitely streamlined where the form goes. It doesn't have to go through another department anywhere to finally get to me to fill it. It'll come directly to me. It's put together on the Seamless Docs platform. So we also have automatic record of all the FOIAs that we receive, which can be handy if we're ever asked. We're supposed to keep these records for at least a year. So we can compile that even very quickly now if it's ever requested. Couple of other things to point out. The first being a bill that we received from the Michigan Conference of Teamsters Welfare Fund. We had an employee who had a new dependent to add to coverage back at the beginning of 2022. So we're talking virtually 18 months ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. The dependent was never added by the welfare fund, never added, and as far as we know, never received any kind of benefit from the health insurance. And yet the Teamsters now want the county to pay nearly $17,000 in back coverage for an individual that didn't use the coverage and a person that they didn't add on their end. We're going to turn this over to our county attorney to represent us. This is just as it strikes as not being fair that they would now say that you owe us 18 months of fee for somebody that wasn't covered. So I think it's going to get a little deeper just to make sure that there was no claim. But if there was a claim, it would have been rejected. And I'm sure we would have heard from the employee at that point. So again, we'll ask that be reviewed. It just seems again, smacks as unfairness. This was definitely on the Teamster Welfare Fund and that the individual wasn't added, so not our error. Transit Director job posting is out. We have 3 applicants right now in the queue. The posting on the Michigan Association of Counties website will go through, I believe through the end of the month. There's 2 or 3 weeks yet on that posting. Plan right now is I'll be meeting with the transit committee next week. We will go over procedures for what happens next. How do we screen the applicants for minimum qualifications? We've already briefly talked about a schedule for interviews. I again tend to work through the transit committee with that. There'll be definitely the sounding board. Any recommended hires, of course, will come to the board for final approval. So that's right on schedule at this point. Depending again on the quality of the applicant, which I'm sure if they didn't meet the minimum qualifications, they probably wouldn't have applied. So I think we're on a pretty good schedule for that. You see a number of department reports, and Ray did provide a department report that I do want to draw your attention to one item, and that's reimbursement rate for eligible expenses through the state. There was a miscalculation that was provided by the state. We were originally told that the eligible expenses would be reimbursed at a rate of just over 40%. Well, there was a miscalculation and that rate was overstated by about 10%. So Ray's going through the budget right now to look at the impacts of that. The state's telling us right now to not take action because this isn't final yet. There's some other things that they're going to do on their end. But I disagree. I think now's a good time to plan for the worst case. So I'll be working with Ray and with the transit committee. Probably we'll have more details next week to go over the exact impact of that. 3 items on here that just in your spare time, feel free to review that have to do with some regional coordination. One of them has to do with the opioid survey that we're doing through MSU. Crawford, Scott, and Roscommon counties are a little bit behind us in terms of their work with their opioids funding, but with MSU's help, they can distribute the same survey we're going to get to those counties. And we can all share that information with one another, but because they're not as far along, they don't have a committee to review. I think we've concluded that, well, a committee being in place doesn't necessarily preclude a survey. They're going to need the data anyway. So it appears right now that MSU will do all four of us at the same time, which I think would be good information from us, but a much more efficient process for MSU. All of the costs for those surveys are being borne by MSU through a grant with Department of Health and Human Services. So there's no cost to any of the counties to do this. But it would, again, just be nice to have us all on the same timeline, at least for receiving that information. Also had a call from Roscommon County concerning our indigent defense. She'd had a meeting with the regional MIDC coordinator, and they're promoting counties working together, particularly in our county where we have circuit and district courts that are overlapping. The state, I believe, is already on the path to do exactly what's being suggested here, is get counties like Roscommon and Ogemaw to work together to have one public defender office. I think you're going to see within the next 12 to 18 months a rule come down from the state court administrator that does not let this lay as an option. They're going to tell us you've got to do it. So we're going to start looking at the configuration of that now, and then hopefully be ready to hit the ground running if and when that directive comes from the state. If it's something that works in our favor, maybe something that we might want to implement ahead of a state directive to do so, particularly if it's going to save money, and it does appear that that's a possibility. I will leave you to read the rest of it. Those are the highlights I wanted to hit, and take any questions.
I have none. Any questions, commissioners?
No, I didn't have any.
I think the possibility of working with Roscommon for that could be a great benefit to us. I think I agree with you that if we do have that benefit and we can start it beforehand, we know it's coming down, we might as well.
Yeah.
And then one question, obviously this transit, that's a significant amount of money. Now, looking at years past, are we typically around that 30%?
The rates were adjusted through some justification was through COVID. There were additional dollars that the counties and other public transits were receiving. But with Ray being here, he might be better equipped to answer that more directly.
Ray, do you want to come on up?
Sure. The adjustments for COVID were mainly through our federal operating dollars, not the state. I think last year the state was 34.56875%, something like that. We're not gonna know what this percentage is until this fall. I can tell you that right now. They have to figure out every transit agency's budget. There'll be budget adjustments this summer. And then it will all figure out in the wash in the fall. But at 30%, that's pretty low. And like I've stated in the past, our percentages from the state have been dropping almost every year. And now they've dropped again. And it's going to be an issue, no doubt about it. And my last statement here was that I presented my application to MDOT using 0.75 mils for millage money. And even at that, with this 30%, we will be in the red at $50,000. So it's going to cost us $50,000 if we have 7.5 mils. So it's a bad deal. And I guess to cut my budget, the only thing I can cut really is labor. I have no control over anything else. You know, fuel, cutting labor cost will cut fuel because there won't be as many buses on the road. But if we were to do something like that, the area would suffer because they just wouldn't be getting the service that we're attempting to provide at this point. So, all in all, I'm hoping to get a new director and we will discuss this. There's gonna need to be a lot of discussion. One other thing is that, we have a Zoom meeting today at 12:30 to discuss what happened here with this. Because every transit agency in Michigan used this 40.2998%. Everyone did to work their budget, so it's gonna be an issue, no doubt about it.
So there'll be more to come.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Can I just add
Go ahead.
to, Tim's notes, you guys, if everyone's read them, you'll see that some of the items, construction items, some items that we're getting RFPs on. Now, these items all have grant money waiting to be used for. It's not like we're just spending transit money. This is all pretty much
All grants, yeah.
it'd be all 100% grant money to pay for all of these improvements, which I'm glad to see because these are items that I really need, plus we've got the grant money we need to use on them, so.
And speaking of that, I have till August to spend all of this money, and I'm disappointed with the state and how long, and Tim, how long it takes them, because every one of these grants that Tim and I put together, or these solicitations that Tim and I put together, have to be presented to MDOT for approval before we can send them out. They take months and months and months to approve them. But they have a limited personnel and they've got a lot of transits to deal with. So, and basically, this is really the first time that I've had to deal with this. In the past, the only thing I've dealt with is small things and buses. And buses are simple compared to what we're doing now. So.
Thanks, Ray.
It is. All righty. Thank you.
Item 11,
One
elected
other
officials.
question,
Go ahead.
administrators, what about the annual budget? Never heard anything.
So that process actually will kick off in April. Well, you'll have a budget calendar to approve.
No, I
And
mean, the one they just got, haven't they completed last
the
year?
audit?
Audit?
Yeah. So the auditor will be here next Thursday at the committee of the whole meeting to present that.
Oh, okay, okay. We have anything that we know, anything stands out yet, or?
There is to me, okay, and there's to Karen, I know that, but I don't know if that's more of an internal preference.
I'll wait a week.
Yeah, we've asked them to point some things out to you.
All right.
Perfect. Mr. Mayhew, did you have something?
Yeah, you said we're gonna be ahead of this. What's that gonna actually mean to us on the court deal?
Don't know yet, but that's the thing that Roscommon County wants to talk about. So right now, we're already using pretty much the same attorneys for the indigent defense. And if the state tells us we want you to formalize this by setting up a public defender office, which I think is what they're going to do. Actually, I think that'll give us a little bit more control over those expenditures. Now you're going to be setting, wage rates. You're going to be setting, all the other non-personnel rates through a budget. You'll do that directly. Right now, we simply contract with the private attorneys and we pay their rate and that's it. There's really not a whole lot more oversight than that. Now, having said that, we've not spent all of that money every year. There's a pretty big fund balance in the Indigent Defense Fund. And I think Roscommon is probably experiencing the same. All right, well, the state has determined that this is what these counties need to provide adequate representation, so that's what they give us. So that's good, I guess, to have that cushion. Where I think the savings will come in is that you will have control over the wages. It won't be the hourly rates billed by individual attorneys' offices. It will be they're working 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever that is. Here's the salary, here are the benefits, capped. You know for certain what that's going to be. Doesn't matter if they have 2 cases or if they have 200 cases, that's what it is. So I think that's the big benefit to us. There'll be a lot more accountability for those dollars. Again, not saying that they're being misspent or misapplied now. We just don't have the ability to see exactly what's going on and, apply the rules that we have in terms of our policies, to make sure that everything's being done the way we'd like to see it done.
But it won't be like one building somewhere else, or
Way too early to consider. I don't know where it would be housed. I don't think we have the room here, but that doesn't mean they necessarily need to be here necessarily. Maybe they're in Roscommon. And we just have a shared cost that way, but yeah, all that to be determined.
okay.
Good. Elected official and department head reports. We have the building inspections. I know there's some information on our iPads. Mr. Stein, I see you're on the phone. Do you have anything to add to that? Ryan? It was nice you put this report on our iPad so we could see it. Information technology. Tom? Do you have anything?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, register of deeds. Denise? Sheriff corrections report. We have a report on our iPads.
Yes.
Is there anybody representing them? Transit, Ray, do you have anything to?
Nope.
Thank you for being here.
I've said enough for today.
Treasurer?
Yes. Sharon Piglowski, your Ogemaw County Treasurer. On your iPads is your bank ratings report, so you can see the stability of the financial institutions we invest in. Your cash summary report highlighting once again your negative cash for the month, which hopefully will be part of our discussion at the next meeting with the audit. I also wanted to mention to you a few things happening in the office. Tax settlement is underway. We settled with 7 out of the 17 units, so we're progressing all that way. Exciting news, we started a land bank demo yesterday. 1450 East State Road, the burnt down house is gone. The project will be completely finished by the end of the day on Friday. So that's exciting. And then we also cut down a very large tree, and by large, I mean the base of it is every bit as wide as my arm span. Big willow tree that has been removed from our Rose Township property in progression to be putting down a demolition on that property. So that's exciting. We have a lot of good things happening with the land bank. Hoping to do some before and after photos in the newspaper so the public's more aware of what the land bank activity is. And I also want to mention a little thing I started in our office. I call it the Gold Star program. I purchased these Gold Star stickers from Amazon myself, no taxpayer dollars spent. And when taxpayers pay off their taxes, they get a gold star. And I know that might sound silly on the surface, but I can't tell you the joy and smiles it is bringing to our taxpayers during these economically challenging times. One small act of kindness really does make a difference in somebody's day. So Gold Star program, yeah. So anyways, it kind of became a buzz even within the building, and employees, coworkers were coming in saying, well, how do I earn a gold star? So created a little bit of buzz with a simple act of kindness, and it's bringing a smile to our taxpayers' faces.
Good, thank you. Clerk?
Brett Gildner, your Ogemaw County Clerk. Just one thing with the May election, we are consolidating because the West Branch Rose City School is on, and we have Gladwin County, there's 2 townships, and Oscoda County, there's 1 township that is West Branch Rose City School District. So the Mentor Township and Oscoda County will be consolidating with the city of Rose City. So that means they will come to Rose City to vote if they're voting in person. And then the 2 Gladwin, Brett and Clement Townships, they're going to go to Edwards Township to do their in-person voting. We are not doing early voting for May because it's not a state or federal election. That's it.
Any questions? Did I miss anybody? Thank you. Any matters from the floor? Any motions for adoption? Commissioner reports. There are meeting minutes for the Budget Committee for February 28, 2024, Law Enforcement Committee for March 7th, 2024, Planning Commission from February 28, 2024, and Transit Committee from February 15, 2024. Commissioner Wiltie, do you want to take the lead?
So past Tuesday had a Mills Township meeting. We recently had, the local developer who's been taking the lead on the sports complex behind Myers, Tommy Dalt. He had been spending a little bit of time in Mills Township. I can see some potential there, with my experience with the housing and also being on the new Ogemaw County Housing Coalition. I offered to go with him and the township supervisor to do some site visits, look at some old subdivisions that have been parceled out for, residential building. And so we actually met 2 different times, and then this past Tuesday, Tommy came and pretty much just reported that him and his team have a lot of interest in Mills Township for a couple different things. Residential housing being one, and they're working with some current owners there for that possibility. But yet also he brought up, and now this is again, it's all vision at this point, but they have put in legwork talking with property owners. Across from Mills Township Hall, there's 80 acres that's been for sale for a while. It's pretty much have heavy timber. There has been talk about a possibility of a campground there, which would be great for Mills Township. Tommy saw that vision and took it to his team, and they started to put stuff on paper for 300 and some unit campground. At the beginning of the campground would have a gas station, which Mills Township Skidway Lake greatly needs another gas station. We only have one. Would also have a laundromat. We greatly need a laundromat. And a few other items that the area needs. So again, this is all vision, but it's great to see. It's absolutely awesome to see that, we do have some movement on something, whether it be them, and maybe if it's not them, it could be someone else. So either way, it's good for our area. Then also, on Greenwood Road, right before you hit the river, the township owns a small little parking area, which is highly used for our residents. For non-residents, people from out of state that also use the high banks. It's just a small little parking area. A lot of times in the summer, it gets overly crowded. People will park up on Greenwood Road, which causes safety issues. Tommy and his crew put together a plan by talking with the Boy Scouts. They had an in with pretty much the #1 in the state of Michigan with the Boy Scouts. I don't know his name, but he's out of Ann Arbor. Anyways, the Boy Scouts offered 1.14 acres of ground to the township for $1. To expand that, there would be some costs to the township. There's some surveying, some improvements, gravel and everything. But it really is a great opportunity for us. So the township board will make a decision on that. But it was really good to see that Tommy and his crew put that together. Again, another great example of progression and getting people involved that can bring good things to our area. Other than that, I've got a lot of meetings coming up from my EMS and transit. I did have a DHHS meeting yesterday. They're fully staffed, might be bringing on a few more people. Things are going well over there. They do a lot of good things for our county, and I give those people a lot of credit for what they're doing. They help a lot of people that need help in our county. Like I said, I've got a lot of stuff coming up here this month still, so right now that's about it.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, you got to see the minutes from the law enforcement committee meeting that Charlie and I went to it after last week's meeting. Was the Gloucester Township Tuesday night. They had an extremely short meeting. It was 16 minutes, I think it took. They didn't have much going at all. We had Parks and Rec yesterday, but we weren't able to come up with a quorum, so the 501c3 group for the Deer Park has got the roof on the park hall completed and paid for. So we're looking at soffit and fascia improvements right now. So other than that, I got a couple other meetings this month to go to. I'll fill you in later.
Commissioner Simmons?
we talked pretty much about the transit committee, but the budget, when we talk about the budget committee, I'm proposing, we have a meeting tomorrow, right?
The, it's not the budget committee tomorrow, it's the.
That's what I'm talking
Headley
about.
Committee.
So we usually call it the budget committee when we go and talk about millages and stuff. We're gonna change the Headley one to the name of the committee. It's not gonna be called the budget committee anymore. And I think we need to separate budget committee from the Headley committee, because we don't want to get them intertwined and confuse the people. I don't know if anybody's used the calculation that we have. Is it on Facebook or webpage?
You can get to it through both.
Okay,
And
but I don't know if
Tom might
anyone's
have a-
used it or not.
I don't know if Tom might have any information on that. So sometimes they keep track of the statistics.
Any information, Tom?
I don't have any information as to how many people would have used it. It is on our county website.
Okay, would we have access to how many people have used it or no?
No, I don't have that information.
Okay, thanks. So I don't know. But it's available out there. The new taxable values have been put out there, so they can use the new taxable values too. There's been talk at township meetings that I don't know which way it's gonna flow. I hear positive, I hear negative, so I don't know yet. And so we're gonna have a meeting tomorrow though, on the committee that's doing the Headley at 9 o'clock in the county building. We pretty much covered transit with the new wraps that we're on. I'm pretty excited about those. They really look nice. I've seen them and they do look very nice. I was really pleased to see the nature park was on the back of it, so it really looked nice. So there's not much else I have to report, really. Most of my meetings will be taking place later.
Commissioner Mayhew?
Collins, they're still having trouble with their sewer line. And the city come in and offered to, if they'd annex it to them, they'd take it, and they said no. The new marijuana facility up on 33 got an address. And the clerk at Rose Township is retiring. And Hill Township and Rose Township are working on a deal to own Lupton Fire Department, I believe.
Who owns it now?
Lupton.
Oh,
Yeah, it's an authority deal, some kind of deal. It's one of the two fire departments left in the state that's private.
so who's looking to own it?
Hill Township and Rose.
So they're looking to put it on a millage for funding?
I don't know what all they're gonna do, but see, this Rose is in with Rose City, Cummins and Clacking. And they own Rose City Fire Department. And Lupton Fire Department was independently owned, but they had been getting taxpayers' dollars from Rose Township. And that's where they got in over. You can't give taxpayer monies to an individual. So now, and probably, I don't know, but roughly 50% of the stuff was purchased with taxpayer dollars from Rose Township over the years, from way back when till now. But the lawyers got involved and told them they cannot do this, so now they have to change the whole deal.
So there'll be more to come on that.
Oh, boy, it's been a regular war over there.
Are you done?
Yep, that's it.
I attended Churchill Township. They talked about their gypsy moths. The individual was there to give a report. As far as what the plan is. They talked a little bit about the gravel pit, that was brought to our attention, that is in their township. A little bit about the cell tower there as well, that was, in their township. Talked about their budget. They sit pretty good over there. 911, or excuse me, Logan, I went to Logan Township as well. They really still struggle there. Those meetings are extremely lengthy. They talked about the assessor contract. They're just really struggling on working together and making any progress. It's remains extremely frustrating over there. I know there's individuals that are gonna be running for positions, so hopefully there can be some changes. They struggle with job duties, who's doing what. So unfortunately, there's not a lot to report there. I stay about an hour. Their meetings start at 7. I think I left at 8, between 8:15 and 8:30. And they were not halfway through the agenda. It's pretty frustrating over that way. And it's just that they don't work together well at all. Even coming down to the minutes are changed, trying to approve the minutes. It's a struggle, which is very unfortunate because I live over there. 911, I attended that last night. Again, I already talked a little bit about the safety policy moving forward. There'll be more to come on that. A little bit of overtime this past month. They go over the overtime every single meeting, but not much. They keep that, they've done very well with that. They are looking at hiring one more individual. They have one off right now with some medical leave, a part-time that's retiring. So she's looking at hiring somebody to get them trained. Of course, the training that goes into that is pretty extensive. Planning Commission, those minutes are in there. The cell tower, we approved that. Infinity Sports was there. Tommy was there, told us a little bit about his plans. We also chose not to waive those fees for the special permit for the gravel pit for $900. We talked a little bit about solar energy, but we're keeping that on our radar at this point in time. I think that pretty well covers that meeting, correct?
Correct.
Also, we elected board officials and everything stayed the same. So that was simple. Anybody miss anything?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, sir.
Mills Township, I have talked about this, it's been an issue ongoing. Our library in Mills Township had severe water damage. Restoration companies have been in there, it's still closed, but on top of that, they have severe financial issues. They've had financial issues for years. There's not a real good line of communication between the library and the township board. There's some things that happened in the past that still cause some issues with the current board and how to move forward. So the township lawyers are looking into contracts to see how we can move forward. But at the end of the day, the sad part is the library is closed. The library is heavily used by Mills Township residents. I strongly encourage them to sit down at the table all together to try to find resolution how to do this, whether it be possibility of Mills Township maybe putting something on an August millage for funding the library, for Mills Township to go on their own and have their own library. I mean, to continue the way things are, to get, representation on the district library, because the library is right in Mills Township. So there's a lot that needs to be done there, but bottom line is something needs to happen because it's affecting especially our children. A lot of our children in Mills Township go there, and then my daughters go there. So it's really important that this gets figured out. So that's a big topic there. I'm surprised I forgot to brief on that. And then I just want to bring up the fact of our MTA meeting that we had. And 3 of our commissioners that we went to, Commissioner Simmons, Mr. David was there. Randy Booth and Tim spoke on behalf of the county and on the Headley. And we did a PowerPoint display, and then Brenda talked about how simple it is to just put in what your assessed value, taxable value is, what the costs are. So we know there's a lot of mixed feelings about the Headley. I really do like the idea that we broke up that budget committee, because the budget committee has a great purpose. The Headley, in my eyes, has a great purpose, but it needs to be separate. So that was a good move. But we're just trying to be consistent on this message here these next month and a half, getting out there to the townships. Whether you support it or you don't support it, it could be a great benefit to our county. The money would be used the right way in order for us to get to that point where we can really start creating some financial sustainability for the county. So that's where I think I'm at. Done.
General public comment. Any? In the room? Any general public comment on the phone? Motion to adjourn.
I like that motion.
Good day, everyone.
9:59. Hey, we need to, this for 911, yeah, they wanted to make sure that I sign that today.